see that clear. I can't see this.
Okay, we're back after a break to change the DVD. The question from Dr. Moore was, do any of these drawings show where the black box would be?
Yes, and I apologize, I didn't give you any floor designs, but on the site design that I showed you, there is this small square connected by a hallway. It would essentially be pushed back into this hill. There's a grade change from this level. Remember, from the front, you only see 2 stories of the building, and from this side, there are 3 stories of the building. This road here will be sloping from the upper lots to the lower lots. So this, should it become the Black Box Theater, would be pushed into the slope. You actually wouldn't see the Black Box Theater from New England Road. You would enter it from this western parking lot. So you would come down, park here, you could enter the main entrance here for the gymnasium or the main theater, or you could enter in a small hall entrance here for access to the Black Box Theater. In fact, if a community group wanted to rent the Black Box Theater for an evening performance, it could be completely secluded from the rest of the building. It would be something that you could separate completely. And I didn't note that on this main level.
We looked at that. I mean, I guess, you know, that the one thing, it sounds like you're not optimistic about the black box. And I guess I just feel like the 2 things that you know, didn't make it in from the added specs. I mean, I think it's a great plan, and obviously the core is the educational pods, which look fantastic. But the 2 things that look like they didn't make it in were things that we, you know, pushed with the community as being things that they could access in the building, and that was the elevated track for indoor use and the black box theater. And I guess the other thing I think about is just, you know, is there, when you're looking at these ad alternates, the potential for return, you know, financially to the community or the district, if you're able to use something like the black box and rent it out, you know, if that's being considered in terms of the finances of the ad alternates.
It was, yes, and it is something that could possibly generate it, but it probably would be something that in the order of magnitude would be really challenging. It's sort of similar to the conversation about geothermal. You know, would the upfront investment be offset in a reasonable time frame? It is the ad alternate that I'm most excited about, but it's also the one with the single largest price tag. And so I would love it if we could do it. It's an exciting space. Part of the conversation with the subcommittee that really looked at this area and the Black Box Theater fell to the idea that these spaces, particularly the choral room, could be reconfigured to serve many of the functions that a Black Box Theater would serve, and that the main theater itself, while it might be overly large and not as intimate, would also provide for many of the functions that the Black Box could serve. And then, having worked in schools that have the commons area, this actually becomes a really active space. You see coffee houses, you see lectures, you see those sorts of activities that can often be done right here in that commons area. What I do feel good about is that the group that was involved in recognizing this concession of allowing the black box to shift to the ad alts and come out of the base design was a subcommittee that was made up of theater and music instructors from the high school staff, representatives from community theater and community music around Guilford, as well as some experts. We have some community members who live in Guilford who work in the professional community of music and theater, and we're sharing their opinion and their expertise with us. So while nobody was excited about seeing it fall out, I think everybody agreed that this was the priority in that area. There was a lot of enthusiasm for it, and I know that there would be a huge cheer if the bids came back in a way that allowed us to put that in.
And there's a lot of space the way it's designed that will have community access. Obviously between the gyms, between the common area, the auditorium itself, you know, whether you actually you can have some sort of a function in there and use the commissary at some point is another option. So there's a lot of things put into that as well.
This space will also be controllable in after hours or weekends, so that as community enters this main area, if there's a theatrical event going on but no athletic event, these areas will be able to be locked down. The pinch points here in the bow tie will be able to be closed so that access into these pods will not be open. So when we open this on a Friday night because there's a basketball game or a theatrical event going on, we will be able to control community access to the other parts of the building where activities aren't taking place and make sure that we maintain community access in the area that is open to the public and that is being monitored, supervised, and maintained during those times that it's open. So the building is modular in that sense, and that we can open up the parts that we want to open up and control the parts that we need to control, compared to a building like this one, where if you open a door so that people can have access to this meeting here tonight, there's really little control to keep people from being in hallways and being throughout the building. This building will be easier to maintain and control in that way.
Okay, any other questions or comments for tonight? So the plan will be that we'll meet with the building committee or representatives of the building committee in 3 weeks. And in case people are wondering about why this is, I thought the charter said that this goes to the building committee and the board of selectmen, and why do we have it again? Because this is one of these things we've noted before. The statutes don't allow the selectmen to submit the plans to the state, with the building service, whatever, the new
BSF.
BSF.
Which is probably the old name and not the new name, but we still call it BSF.
So we have to approve what the building committee has done in order for what I'll call it the state to accept it. So.
And regarding the offer of the building committee to go over, because this isn't a whole lot different from what we saw prior to the construction documents. Those are
Yes.
in more detail. If we were to take them up on that offer, is the best way to do it to contact Scott, or are there other people who are?
I would say probably contact me or Terry and give us times that you're available, and then I'll contact Scott, because I think it might be different depending on, and probably let us know what your area of interest is. If you wanted to come in and talk about the energy components, I would really work to invite Scott or Jim. If you wanted to come in and talk about, you know, the PE area, I would look to invite Scott or Todd Williams, who chaired the internal athletic subcommittee. Mary Beeman chaired the theater and performing arts subcommittee.
Well, my only suggestion is that you take a look at the documents, formulate your questions, and then ask for somebody to come in. Because don't just meet them there and say, I want to go over the documents, come on, meet me down there, and start paging through them, because that's just not a good use of time. So make sure you go, you take a look at them, you got questions, take notes on the questions, and then invite them in to be a lot more, better use of everybody's time.
To Mr. Bloss's point, I think there are 4 stages where the board, where your approval is required. That is in the completion of the ed specs, the approval of these construction documents, the approval of the FF&E list that we will complete, and then the final approval of the sign-off when the project is complete and the closeout sheets have done. All of those stages will involve other people, the architects, the construction managers, and the building committee preparing those documents, but the Board of Education, in addition to the DC, will have to sign off at those 4 areas. And
Okay.
thank you for the suggestion of doing this here tonight, but again, I will insist on extending the offer. They will be at Lathrop House from now until the 25th, and I'd be happy to touch base with anybody who wants to come in and look at the documents. I have some degree of familiarity with them, not as much as some of our experts on the building committee.
And this document, is this, I don't think it's on the building committee's website yet. If somebody can just...
This was actually something that I put together. I think all of these materials are on the building committee's website,
separately?
but not in this organization. I pulled from the different presentations we had to try to give you illustrations that would go to the points I was trying to make tonight. In fact, what I failed to find, I really wanted a blow-up of the classroom pod. I wanted to spend a little bit more time walking through an enlarged blow-up of the classroom pod. If I receive that, I'll go ahead and make a copy of that and just share it with all of you, because that's the part that I'm most excited about. It's the part that Dr. Keene is really excited about.
You might want to just put this on our website, though.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Are they going to do
else?
any mock-up models, or?
There is a cardboard model that exists at the TSK office, and they use it. It's not one of the really pretty ones. What we will get as we get through approval, what they do now are the 3D computer models, and when we have some of those, we'll put those on the building
It'd be
committee.
really nice to have one just in the library, you know, for.
The price of that, we investigated that to start with, and the price of those things is just horrendous of where you put your value.
Yeah, we
something
didn't-
pretty versus the CAD 3D stuff that then is really the way to
Sounds
go.
like a student project.
They're one of the few firms that still does a cardboard one at all, and we didn't include in the bid, the nice one that you put in a community area that we're used to seeing. That was not included in the bid. They've moved away with this BIM, the design software that they do, so everything exists in the computer now, and most firms don't do it. TSK made a big deal about the fact that they still use a cardboard model at all, but it's not a presentation quality one.
Okay, that was a motion to adjourn, Mr.
Yep.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you
All right,
all
thank
very
you.
much.
This officer,
Yes.
Website is down.
handicapped
Oh,
accessible.
is it really?
Huh? Yeah, that's the whole point.
Well, I don't know what to tell you about that.